Hi guys, this is Nadia Hilker. I'm playing Magna on The Walking Dead, and you guys are listening to The Walking Dead Talk Through. I hope you guys enjoy this podcast, and I'm sending you all my love. Bye!
Hello, my name is Cassie McClincy. I play Lydia on The Walking Dead, and you're listening to The Walking Dead Talk Through. Yeah!
Hey there guys, I'm Callan McAuliffe, and you're listening to The Walking Dead Talk Through on Talk Through Media.
Hey, I'm Lindsley Register, and I play Lara on The Walking Dead. You're listening to The Walking Dead Talk Through on Talk Through Media.
Hey, this is Ross Marquand, and you're listening to The Walking Dead Talk Through.
Awesome.
Hey, survivors, welcome to episode 153 of the Walking Dead Talk Through, Dead City Edition. I'm LT.
And I'm Kyle.
And I'm Brian.
You know, I almost said, and I'm Kyle.
Yeah, I did not update the dog.
Especially after that
okay.
pause.
It's like, who am I? This week we'll be covering The Walking Dead Dead City Season 1, Episode 2, titled Who's There? But first, we're going to cover some feedback from the previous episode of The Walking Dead Dead City Season 1, Episode 1, Old Acquaintances. And of course, that brings us to Aaron from the internet.
Yay. All right, I'll take it.
Okay.
Yeah. Oh, Aaron. All right, Aaron says, first, hey, Brian, and a wave emoji. We've missed you, but you made a good choice to stay away from the trash fire.
Dumpster fires.
Yeah, how far
Yep,
did you get through Fear so far?
I'm on episode 3. So I've seen all of 2 and just part of 3.
All right,
So,
well, we'll have to get back to you when you
2
get to
was
the end.
better than 1. I will say that much.
Yeah.
2 was better than 1, but I'm still going, huh? You know? like June the medical experimenter.
Yeah, seriously.
When did she become a mad scientist? And by the way, I recognize that what's her name on there.
Shrike?
You recognize
Shrike.
that Shrike was one of the synths from Picard Season 1?
Yes.
perhaps?
Yes. The library synth.
Oh yeah,
Indeed.
Actually, I don't think she was a synth. She was she wasn't an android. She was an AI, like the Doctor or something like that.
Oh,
right? Because she just like phased away. I think she was just a hologram. But in any case, she was in Picard Season 1, and I don't know. We may have seen her before or seen her again as well somewhere in that show. I want to say she was in Season 3, but maybe not. I don't know.
yeah.
But anyway.
All right, well, let's continue. She says, hopefully he'll enjoy Death City to erase the decline of Fear from his mind. For me, Fear just never returned for some reason post-Madison, waking up at the water duct in Mexico, California. I just ended there, and there's some show on now using the same name with the same actors, but Fear. She says, a story of family trying to survive and some of the best shady characters in the show universe ended after Season 3. Agreed. Although I do think
it is. I mean, the show has had a tendency of changing with each season, but
well, that was a hard.
this
change.
is almost like a bridge too far.
Mhm.
You know, like I thought the radioactive walkers, from last season, I thought was a little stretchy, but actually in comparison to this, this is nothing compared to
No, right.
this is maybe, I mean, I'm only like a third of the way through, but this is feeling a lot like the kids with the airplane.
Yeah.
In terms of too far, it's just like,
Actually, I would say this is more like the kids build a space shuttle.
Yeah. That's a good way to put it. That is a good way to put it.
This is way too far.
Yeah.
And is Padre, I thought Padre was a place or, like a territory, not a person.
Right.
Both.
Yeah. And I don't get that either. So, but anyway.
Yeah. All right. Well, let's move on because we're getting past that. Secondly, I listened to the podcast for the fear portion, and is it true? It must be true because you said it multiple times. Morgan Jones is gone? And then shock face emoji. It took 4 years too long, and like now I honestly don't know how to feel because, I never cared for him, but we had to waste 4 years of fear on this man. We lost so much Madison and Alicia and even Strand time to him, and he's just gone now?
Okay, so I got to ask, so like, has she stopped like watching the show and she's only consuming the show from us?
She was not able to watch the mid-season finale because a storm came through, and so she was not able to watch it. It came back on again, like I think like probably the next day or something like that. But it came on like at 11 o'clock, and so it was like kind of too late for her to like stay up because she has to work. So she said she was going to listen to the show, basically get the information of the show through the podcast. So that's
I see.
Yeah.
Okay.
So that's where these comments are coming from, because she didn't watch the episode, but she was listening to us, and then that's how she's going to get the information.
Okay. I haven't watched it yet, but I still would recommend to watch it just to, for one thing, we may miss things.
Yeah, no,
of course we don't. But there is this potentiality.
Despite our cutting edge commentary, we are human beings and we might miss some detail.
Deals. Well, I told Aaron, just when you get a chance to watch it, you can always email the feedback and we will cover it.
Exactly.
Yep. All right, she continues on like, okay, we might get an OG fear in now with Madison Strand. And then she's like, Troy is dead. It can't be him, which we talked about. And Daniel, but like, are we going to reboot them back to before Morgan ever came? Because like Madison has been weakened physically. Daniel has his own unit to run, and Strand is just now popping up. Like, why would they not kill him on a site? Certainly Daniel. What are the final ever fear episodes going to be about? Because the flip is they all set aside differences and run some compound in the swamps and are basically fine forever. Like, I don't have faith they'll make the end of fear feel like it's an earned journey for those main three, and like we won't have Alicia beyond maybe flashbacks. So the last time Madison saw her kids alive was the park, and then they died without her, and it's just so sad.
I understand basically that they, the actress must have wanted to leave, and who could possibly, who could blame her for that?
Right. I agree.
Right. However, with bringing Madison back, that was a huge opportunity that they missed. Like they really, the season could have been that much better if Alicia was still on the show. It would have completely changed the dynamic, of course.
Oh, gosh, yeah.
But it just would have been better all the way around.
It would have, we brought it up when we were discussing the show. It was like I just didn't understand it, and it was like we saw how Daniel reacted to seeing Madison for the first time. And that was like a really fun reunion, which I think you're another episode or two away from that, or maybe an episode.
Yep.
But it was like that, like just that whole. It wasn't even that long of a scene, but it was just like, okay, could you imagine if we got Alicia finally seeing that her mom's alive and them getting together, like having that whole story, and then them joining together and then taking on Padre, the stupid kids, and they would have murdered them all in 2 seconds and been done. It would have made a completely, entirely different show.
It would have been, and probably a much better show.
Yeah.
But,
All right. Yeah. All right. Well, let's go on. She says, granted, we don't know how the series would have gone had Madison never came back again. All I can think of is the wasted potential because he did take time, and yay, it's over, but it's over so late, and I doubt the show can be saved without a massive "it was all a dream" or on someone's part.
Oh, God.
She's going to wake up in the shower with Bobby Ewing.
Yes.
Oh, we have no idea if that's what.
And I realize that's the most dated dream sequence reference I've ever made.
It is, but I understood it.
She goes on. She says, I'm conflicted and I don't like it. Angry face emoji. And we lose Dwight and Sherry too. Talk about convenient and seeing behind the curtain of what people want to do. Eye roll. Also, those poor fans of that pair. Why would you ever waste your time with them again? Even if they get back together, you can't trust it. And yeah, it sounds like this episode just drove home what a waste of time these last 4 years have been. I said it before, but I'll say it again. So went Madison, so went the show, and Morgan Jones killed it. And he'll pop up somewhere else again, being him, while none of our people will be seen again. Angry face emoji. She goes on, also, man, LT really nailed it when he said, y'all suffer so we don't have to, because this episode sounds like a mess. Oh, Aaron, you got to watch it. Just, I hope you
got to watch it just because you got to watch it.
Yeah, just so you get the full effect. Poor Brian only seeing the first crappy episode of the season and having to hear about this hot garbage. I bet he's glad he stepped away from fear. Props to you.
I'm mixed on it. I mean, for one thing, I don't like I don't like the idea of leaving something unseen. Like, for example, I haven't seen the end of Better Call Saul yet, like the last season, because I fell behind. And as far as I know, I haven't looked in a bit, but as far as I know, it's not on Netflix yet. At least it wasn't the last time I looked. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean that's if I start something, it's like I definitely am kind of one of those, not like I'm a completist.
Yeah.
It's just like, but I want to see how it ends, even if I don't like it. It's just like I still want to see it, and it's still in the universe, so it's like that's still part of like, okay, I've got to see what they do, and that goes for anything coming down the line. It's kind of like, Tales of the Walking Dead. It was like I enjoyed the Parker Posey episode, even though it was completely out there, but it was still a little bit in the universe. But it was just, it was just fun. And I hope they do more of that again, but we haven't heard anything. All right. She goes on. She says, props to you and LT for soldiering on for sure, because yeah, this is all a hot mess, even more than it was, which is saying something. Again, maybe we'll get a real Fear style end with the remaining OGs, but I still ask what quality of the writers and Gimple just killed this so hard. It's hard to get excited with this teaser of potential good news, because we've lost so much to come back to the start, as it were. So you're kind of happy, but also super not trusting, I agree. Exactly. I think we were just kind of talking about that. It's just like, with these showrunners, we have no idea what they're going to do.
Well, we have a good idea that what they're going to do is probably going to be bad.
Well, right. But it's just, I mean, there could be, but that's the thing. We don't know what kind of way they're going to take it. It could be completely just another tornado storm that throws walkers in the air.
Yeah, but it could be back to, I don't know, the only two aphorisms I can think of is that occasionally a blind squirrel will find a nut. And if you put 1,000 monkeys in a room with typewriters, eventually they'll write Shakespeare. So,
well,
yes, that's what they always say.
So let's just hope that let's hope the blind monkeys with typewriters find a nut.
All right. She goes on and says, I missed it if y'all said it, but when does the show come back? Fall. That's all that's been said.
I think they said September.
Did they? I was
October?
looking for it, but
I'm not privy, but I would guess that we will find out on the day at Comic-Con, assuming AMC is still going to Comic-Con. I saw that many outlets have pulled out of Comic-Con because of the strikes and whatnot.
Oh, yeah. I guess.
Yeah. Like I believe Marvel and who else? So it wasn't Marvel and somebody else had pulled out of Comic-Con.
Well,
yeah.
Well, we'll see. I think it's still a safe bet to say that it'll be after Labor Day.
Yeah, I would agree.
So you won't be able to wear Fear or watch Fear wearing white shoes.
Gosh.
Marvel, Netflix, Sony, HBO, and Universal to skip San Diego Comic-Con. So, I mean, if just putting it in context with the shows that we cover, if that's true and AMC and Paramount Plus decide to stay, I tend to think that they'll get a lot of coverage.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I don't know, but I don't know though.
Yeah. Well, the Raiders strike and everything that's going on that's definitely I could see being an issue.
Yeah.
All right. Let's get through this. Being the OGs mainly, I want to see that in case the writers slip up and do good content after we've had to sit through this garbage for so long and watching this interesting series be murdered for no good reason. Again, hopes aren't high, but just in case they're old Fear quality goodness, I'd like to see that before the end one more time. And thanks for the answer. Oh, thank you, Aaron. Definitely, though, if you do finally get to watch the episode, shoot me an email and we will add your comments in. All right, that was it. So take it away, LT.
Well, so this week, Season 1, Episode 2, titled Who's There? Written by Eli Jorne, directed by Loren Yaconelli. And the description, according to AMCplus.com, Maggie and Negan encounter native New Yorkers. Armstrong revisits a trauma. And Ginny tries to adapt to change. So, let's start up with our ratings. Kyle, what do you have?
I gave this episode a 7. Eyes up before you toss your cookies.
Indeed. And I gave it an 8. Negan goes old school.
Good one.
I gave it last time 8.5. And I'm thinking that I'm going to give it an 8.5. Let's go with 8.5. Negan strikes again.
Okay.
I guess that's similar to yours, LT, but I did a different spin on it.
There you go. And of course, we did get some listener ratings. And we'll start those off with Glennis from Toronto, who gives it an 8 out of 10, Bloody Rain.
And Renee from Atlanta gives it a 6 out of 10, Negan is negging. Rolling, crying
Neganing.
faces.
Negating, not negging.
Well, okay. Neganing.
That sounds funny. Mike from Asheville says 8 out of 10. Bring in Snake Plissken. Escape from New York. Very good.
My name is Plissken. And Ivan from Minnesota gives it a 6 out of 10. Better bring your umbrellas. All right. Well, since we're through our ratings, that means it's time for the awesome sauce. So first up for the awesome sauce, we have Glennis from Toronto. And she says, run far away when Negan starts telling a joke. Negan knocked it out of the park with that performance. And she throws a smiley face in there. Reminds me of when he told Rick he made pizza and everything after he killed Spencer, and cracking that guts joke then, when wondering where Spencer's guts had gone. He sure spilled that guy's guts. He's going to have to be violent going up against the Croat. That name makes me think of goat and not in the GOAT sense either.
Yeah, that's anyways. Ivan from Minnesota says, the zip lining was pretty cool. Negan putting on a show was definitely the highlight. I mean, he was brutal and really fun to see that side again. The spiked helmets of the Croat people was also kind of cool, how they could just grab and headbutt walkers. Yep.
Renee from Atlanta says, the zip line scene was so good because, man, I do love a good zip line. Is that hugging emoji? Hugging emoji? I could definitely feel the tension when Maggie was on the zip line. Now, of course, I could relate when it came to the walkers, but Maggie's being on that zip line and being so high up was relatable to me. Yeah, a little scary, especially when the zip line kind of ended a little short.
Short, yeah.
I'm scared of heights. And not only that, I'm just a scary person overall. Scary or scared?
Yeah.
I don't think you're scary, Renee. But I will and have zip line, and when I'm doing it, my face looks exactly like Maggie's. I think to myself, like, seriously, lady, why are you doing this? Shrug emoji. But of course, it's too late. I'm already on it, so I just close my eyes and go with the flow. I've been trying to conquer my fears. Flexing muscle emoji. Vegas has a zip line over the strip. You guys should try it whenever you're in Vegas. Hey, I got a better idea. How about if I don't?
Yeah. I mean, I would.
I'm not good. I'm not good with heights. I'm not good with that whole kind of thing. Like, you know, I am a bit of an adrenaline junkie, but not putting my body hundreds of feet in the air. You know, that doesn't do it for me.
I don't have a problem with the zip line. I just doubt I'll ever get to Vegas, but that's just me.
Yeah. That's another thing.
Yep.
I've been in Vegas once and I didn't enjoy it, actually. I have been doing all sorts of things that I would have never done when I was younger. You only live once. YOLO. Muscle emoji. For instance, talking to complete strangers from all walks of life that I've never met, and I look forward to it every week. And when I'm not talking to you all, Brian. I'm not sure why she said that, but laughing emoji. I miss y'all. I would never have done that when I was younger, but man, do I wish the world was like our little podcast.
Aww.
Praying emoji. Well, thank you. That's very nice. Negan being Negan was awesome because it showed how he was able to become the leader of the Saviors. He was ruthless and cunning. Like I said last week, he uses his wit as a coping mechanism in order for him to not look as if he's scared. I understand that he has to be ruthless in order for him to protect himself and his people, but Negan also did some things that didn't have anything to do with protecting his people. Yeah, like his harem, for example.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
All right, Mike from Asheville's up next, and he says, the callback to The Walking Dead Episode 1 with the hands coming through the middle of the double doors. Negan hamming it up. It's him at his best. Pure gold. The nail gun weapons. Those are sick and disgusting, and I loved it. Kudos to the writers for coming up with a new weapon. Initially, I thought a regular nail gun would be useful, other than wondering how they would charge the batteries. But then seeing the hook shot out of it, all is forgotten. I don't care about the logistics. Show me more.
Yeah, that was pretty cool.
Yes, it was. And just to sidebar that, remember, they're not necessarily battery-powered ones. There are propane-powered nail guns.
And air compressor.
Yep. But the propane ones have their own little power pack and go pow-pow.
Oh, yeah.
Cool. Yeah, I don't know if an air compressor one would be practical. You'd have to have a long hose.
And your sidekick carrying the air tank.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
All right, so that brings us up to our awesome sauces. And I guess I'll start. So, my first awesome sauce was that I told Kyle that I have my same old hill that I'm probably going to die on again. That Negan is definitely one of, if not the most nuanced character in The Walking Dead. Now, I'll say that because since the fall of Sanctuary, and we've seen Negan's character progress as, that guy, to being the outcast, to all the things he did, to working his way back and sort of being in everybody's good graces. And even though, as I said last week, I think that the last of the Green Girls does hold a grudge, I'll still say that if you look at how Negan was and how he could put on old Negan, the showman, the boisterous, loud, brutal boss man of the Saviors, how he can sort of put that on like a coat and he can drop into that role and be as Negan-y as we expect him to be. But then when he turned around and he made eye contact with Maggie, that was the point where I cannot give Jeffrey Dean Morgan enough points for this. You saw it in his eyes, just his eyes, and the way that he went from swagger Negan to, humble Negan.
Mm-hmm.
It was absolutely brilliant.
Yeah.
That it informs me a little bit that even though we hated Negan for being a brutal bastard during the Sanctuary days, I would make the argument that it's the same guy, that, he was doing what he thought was best for his people. And there was a little bit of acting there. It was him putting on a show to convey that sense of strength so that his people would be, thinking that he was the leader for the job.
Mm-hmm.
And, we never got to see the scenes when he was by himself, when he may have had some hand-wringing sessions, and, and it may have bothered him. Now, granted, being stuck in a cell for all those years definitely gave him an opportunity to do what penitentiaries were initially designed to, for him to be penitent. But, absolute top of the shelf chops for JDM and the way he pulled that scene.
Yeah, I agree.
Was I glad to see old Negan come back? Oh, heck yeah. Did I think, these boys are in for some trouble? Because once again, you're seeing Negan kind of go Papa Bear, even though these people he just met, but they killed the pigeon lady, and I think that Negan is wanting to get some payback. Now, one of the other things I thought was awesome was they went back to elevator shafts full of zombies like they had in the hospital.
Oh, yeah.
And obviously we were wondering how the survivors negotiated the cityscape, and now we kind of know that there's a lot of climbing and a lot of zip lining. And I I enjoyed the zip line scene. And just to sort of sidebar off of that, you can tell that line doesn't have a lot of drop in it because they were able to throw the pulley back across without it scooting back downhill again. But also the scene with Maggie being tense, she didn't get a good push off.
Mm-hmm.
So you kind of have to lean into it and give it a good jump to get enough forward momentum to go all the way across. Well, that, and you could argue that, Negan may outweigh Maggie by however many pounds, and that would help. But then again, we saw Pigeon Lady go zooming across there like frickin' Batman. So, I was going to bring this up a little later, but I'm going to bring it up now. So when the marshal came out of that apartment into the alleyway, it was a fire escape. Now, if you remember my rant from last week, I was going, well, what about fire escapes? Well, thank you, production crew, for giving me my fire escape. Of course, it also makes me go, see, I told you could have used a fire escape last week when you're sneaking around, but no. And my last awesome sauce is that obviously we're seeing the Croat crew being like Saviors plus, Saviors extra, that I think that due to the leadership, and you can say that the, Negan Saviors were cruel and they did do a lot of ruthless stuff, but I think that it also reflects the leadership that they were not always cruel and they were not always so sadistic. Yes, I will concede the fact that there were times when they were kind of oppressive and they had their whole, check sheet system. So you had to like work off all the stuff you did. But obviously the Croat is far crueler, far more sadistic, far more into more ruthless means. And I think we can safely say that means that his mob of guys, and please forgive me, I never got a clear pronunciation of what to call them. I think that those guys are obviously going to be far more sadistic, far more cruel, far more mean. And I think next week, if what I'm thinking's coming, we're going to find out just how nasty those guys are. Mm-hmm. And it's one of those deals where I think it's going to be nice to have some bad guys that are actually very bad guys, because whenever you're dealing with subtle bad guys, it's not nearly as much fun to see the hero overcome somebody who's just marginally bad guy. Yeah. I mean, that may just be me, but if you're going to have a foe, I'd like to have a foe that is foe worthy.
Yeah.
And even though we're not going to get much time out of this, since we're already 2 episodes in and we only have 4 left, I have a feeling that they're going to pick up the pace and we're going to see some stuff. Mm-hmm. And that is all I've got for my awesome sauce.
It's good. Brian, do you want to go next or you want me to go?
I'll go because I really don't have too much to offer, based on what LT said. I think you mostly covered what I was going to say, but it's the Barazi, I think is the name of it. And it's supposed to mean family or brother. Actually, brother is what it supposedly means. It's actually, the last name is the Barazi is the most common name in Albania. Oh, sorry. No, that's not right. It is most common in Albania. That doesn't mean it's the most common name. Anyway, but it's supposed to be, I think it's supposed to mean brother. What?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that's what I got from it, from the episode.
Yeah. Yeah. But just pretty much what you said, that whole thing with Negan, dispatching that guy. Now, was he was injured already or something, wasn't he?
Yeah, I think he's the one that got the hooks.
Okay. So
no. Hook guy got the neck stomp from Maggie.
Okay.
I think he may have been just sort of stunned in the initial skirmish.
Okay.
Yeah.
But he was injured, and then Negan kind of took that another. Yeah. And that whole thing was brilliant. It was brilliant in watching Negan do his thing. He like stepped right back into Negan being Negan. And then that whole look by Maggie at him, and he kind of just dropped the whole persona, and you could see him sink a little bit, and just it was almost like he took off his Negan jacket, and so anyway, kudos both to Jeffrey D. Morgan and Lauren Cohan on that scene, because I thought it was brilliant and it made the episode for me. I mean, it was just brilliant.
Yeah.
Beyond that, and I don't think we got this in the show, but supposedly the Croat is a scientist. This is what the showrunner said. So I don't think this was really explained yet, but if you watch the like behind the scenes kind of thing at the end of the episode on AMC Plus, and I don't think it's a spoiler to really say it, but the fuel is because the Croat is a scientist and he figured out a way to make new fuel. So I don't know if that means that he's making gasoline again.
Mm-hmm.
And
I don't think it's gasoline, Brian.
No.
There was a scene in the trailer for the scenes for next week that kind of gave me a notion of what the fuel is made out of.
Okay. Like methanol or something like that?
Yeah,
or
kind of.
Ethanol,
or zombinol.
Zombinol. Okay.
Zombinol.
Well, that'll work. Well, I in a way that kind of makes sense, doesn't it?
There was a scene where they were throwing corpses into a big bubbly like distillation chamber.
Well.
And so after they said what they said, that's kind of the first thing that popped into my head.
Walker juice.
Well, it makes sense, although it is kind of twisted. But if you think about it, like what is crude oil made from? It's made from dinosaur remains mostly. So
yeah, but you have to compress them under incredible pressure and all the other stuff.
Yeah.
And as a not quite the same side note, at some point during the Victorian era, when the French were in Egypt, somebody said that that mummies were so common that they were using them for firewood.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Because of the linen and the resin-soaked dressings. So I'm kind of going, okay. Mr. Chemist is still trying to figure out how you're going to make something fuel-like out of decomposing bodies, but I guess we'll find out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I know you can make biodiesel out of peanuts and lye.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, maybe it's essentially what he's made is some kind of biodiesel. So,
Yeah, and using a resource that there's lots of, so that would make sense.
Or perhaps he's made Mr. Fusion.
I was getting ready to say this is the it just went away.
That's about all that I have to say. I mean, I would say that, I gave maybe an extra half point last week because I enjoyed it being back. I will say that we got a little more on the Croat, but not a lot. And I'm still kind of wondering his thing, but I did get a little bit more. So, so I'll give a slight awesome sauce on that point.
Did you notice that one of the guys, when Negan was talking about he shot him and he missed and blew his ear off, that one of the New Yorkers called him Van Gogh?
Oh, yeah. That's right. Oh, goodness. Yeah, I mean, you guys pretty much covered the same thing. It was like the Negan. There was that scene at the beginning, like earlier in the episode when he was talking to Maggie about the Croat and basically giving us the information about him that we were wanting to know. And it was like seeing Negan basically describe and say how like, oh, when they first met, when the whole, like when everything fell, and the Croat was in like really rough shape, and then they kind of became what he said brother. I don't know if he said the same thing.
Yeah, he did.
Brazi, did he?
It's like, I think Brazi is like the plural. It's like he called him the singular version of it. So
yeah, I didn't write it in my notes.
But it was the same. It was basically the same thing.
Same thing, yeah. But it was just him describing, showing. It's like, yeah, they so just like everybody else trying to survive, and then that's kind of when the savior, he had his group, and again we do see Negan talking about. It's like, yeah, Negan in all sense is a showman, and he uses that to show just show strength against those that he's up against, trying to protect his people. So when we see that scene at the end, which is the Negan that we all know, and it like just the way he speaks and it comes across, it's just it's awesome to see that, because we know like Negan weaves a tale that then ends up turning into like you're just hearing it and you immediately start getting like, I'm afraid for those people. Like, well,
it's like the thing too, when he was talking about the Croat, he said, I realized that he had gone too far.
Right. Yeah. And then
that he was a mad dog, and there's only one thing you do with a mad dog. And that still goes back to, even Negan had limits.
Right.
We saw that. And however cruel he could be, he wasn't, an absolute stone cold killer.
Right. Right. And yeah, and that story that he was telling Maggie was talking about how the Croat killed a girl that he thought was like, oh, this is just somebody that, just wandered into our deal and I'm going to let them go. But the Croat had a ways of like reading people and basically ended up killing her. And she was, I guess, she was a scout. She was, I don't know, he didn't say if it was from the kingdom or just a scout.
And see, that's where I'd have to say, this is your chance, Glennis, to stagger us with your background knowledge. If this was a thing in the show, this is your opportunity to
put us.
I won't say prove us wrong, but to confirm that it's a thing.
Yeah.
Oh, if anybody's going to do it, it'll be Glennis.
Yeah, and I don't think that this was anything that we.
This might have been this was off screen.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, we know that the kingdom had a relationship with the saviors that predated us seeing that, because it was already established. But, where that fits with the Croat, we don't know. But
we don't know.
I actually thought about this, and nobody said it, but we're saying that like the Croat may have been the predecessor to Simon.
Oh yeah,
Simon kind of played that enforcer role.
Yes, he did.
Yeah. So, and Simon had his own kind of psychopathic tendencies, I would say. God, now I'm thinking about Simon. I wish that it was Simon in the role because that would be interesting. But of course, Simon didn't survive. So, but yeah. So this is like an ethnic Simon, a Simon with an accent.
Yeah.
So anyway, yeah, it's if you want to think about it that way, he's kind of like a scientific Simon or something.
Yeah.
Because I don't remember if Simon ever said, what his job was prior to being, with the Saviors, but
we have
a scientist.
Croatian science Simon.
Yeah, exactly. I don't envision a Simon as a scientist. So this is like a different. This is like a different bent on Simon, but I like the idea. So
cool. Yeah. I'll just wrap up the last because there's the only thing that I wrote down was the fact that Simon. Now you have me saying Simon. Negan talking about the Croat and all that stuff, but he was saying how yes, he basically crossed the line, but he also said he ended up killing a kid, and we know Negan that's one of his limits, and that also made me think that like okay, now Maggie. And, just thinking about Herschel, it's like, not that like, like the Croats specifically going to kill Herschel because he did something, whatever. It's just the fact that we now are seeing that the Croat is like somebody that basically has no limits. And so that, yes, Herschel is not just being held captive for like, here, I'll want something and I'll give you back. It's like Herschel could totally die. And that could be something that happens in this series. I don't know, but
yeah, you're right about that.
It's scary. It puts him in a not so great plot armored place.
Yeah, it is a good point though.
Yeah. All right. Well, that was all I had. So let's move on.
All right. Well, since we're done with our awesome sauce, that means it's time for the weak sauce.
You're worthless and weak.
Holy cow. And we didn't get any listener weak sauce.
I think people put more into what.
So. I think you're probably right.
That makes sense.
And this week, as I am often wont to do, I weaked most of mine. They weren't quite whattish, but they were definitely weak. And since both of you are giving me that look, I guess I'll go ahead.
Go ahead.
Yeah, go for it.
My first one is obviously the Marshal of New Babylon doesn't get out much, because that first scene when we see him back at the dry cleaners, he looked about as lost and as shell-shocked as I think that the actor was capable of doing. Granted, you just came to in a room full of, 20-year-old dry cleaning and zombies, and the recently mutilated corpse of your sidekick and your other sidekick, which you drilled through the coconut with your rifle when you were trying to kill Negan. So if you just want to say, well, obviously my plan has gone to crap, just that look on his face and his overall actions throughout this entire thing, you can tell. I will make the inference by the way he acted that obviously things aren't that dangerous in New Babylon, except for, hanging jaywalkers and doing whatever it is he does to enforce the law in the community there. So even though last week I said something about Maggie not taking the rifle, well, obviously he didn't go back for it either. And for whatever it counts for, kids, he didn't go back for his hat. Being of the proper age, being seasoned by Raiders of the Lost Ark, and knowing that a good hero never loses his hat, he abandoned his hat, along with his rifle and his backpack and his buddy's backpack, because obviously he was too scared to go back in there where the zombies were, even though the zombies may have wandered off to wherever zombies wander off to. So he finds the apartment, and I'm assuming it's his brother, his cousin, it's somebody that he's kin to. And he did a pretty messy job booting the door in. Scooches the file cabinet up to make sure nobody walks in behind him, stands there, looks around at all the stacked up canned goods, and basically finds whoever it is, and I'm assuming it's his brother, and I will indicate him thusly. So he goes in there, finds his brother, has a quiet moment, covers him up, puts his rosary on his lap, gets the pistol that he offed himself with, put it in his pocket, and then the zombies show up. Once again, no matter how sad it is that this is a member of your family that you just found dead, it's the zombie apocalypse, man. Be putting some of those canned goods in your pockets, and do so with a little more urgency. It just seemed like, since we were talking about it by inference earlier, he was a lollygagger. He just sort of was like in shock. Again, obviously doesn't get out much, and it's survival priorities at this point. Beans and bullets. You need something to eat, you need something to drink, and you need something to take care of zombies. Without going too far afield, and one day we will do this. You two guys don't realize it yet, but we're going to do it. There's a movie that we're going to talk about eventually. And my thing is, if you're in a situation where you're suddenly beset by some sort of supernatural peril, the first thing you would do is arm yourself. I just thought that, I know he's sad, I know he's upset, but it just seemed like he was not moving with a purpose.
Mm-hmm.
So we survived the scene at night in the alley, and obviously he wasn't paying much attention to anything else because he walked right into the trap that Negan showed Maggie and was yoinked up into the air in a cargo net. Again, situational awareness, and obviously the marshal's not been out much and not really paying attention to his surroundings. Now, about that cargo net, I'm not saying that I am some sort of super ninja, but if you yoink me up into the air in a cargo net, the first thing I'm going to do is take something sharp out of my pocket and trying to unyoink myself.
Yep.
Obviously, the marshal was content to snuggle in his cargo net high above the street for hours, it seems, until the bad guys showed up and unyoinked him. Again, I would expect more if he wants to rise to the level of being a zombie apocalypse action hero, he needs to, get himself out of such a thing. That I really didn't see how high up above the street he was, but conjecturally, and of course I've seen Tom Cruise do it, and if Tom Cruise can do it, you can do it, mister. I think he should have been able to cut himself out of that net.
Right.
Or at least make a college try.
And it did seem like he had hours to try.
Yeah, he had hours to try because it was like noonish. It was daylight. And the Croat patrol didn't show up until it was dark.
Right.
So they could have that lovely scene of them highlighted against the headlights of their vehicle when they were killing zombies by headbutt. Not a good look, man. You should have tried to get yourself out a little sooner. And he better get some fire in his belly for next week. Because I have a feeling there's going to be some action next week. And I guess the last thing I'm going to throw out for weak sauce is obviously Ginny does the Carl.
Yes.
She's in somewhere safe. She's with all the friendly hilltoppers in the classroom learning about forageables. And what's the first thing she does? She's going to grab her backpack, climb the fence, and wander off by herself because obviously when Negan told her, go with these people, you'll be safe, that was just a suggestion, and she's got to go find him. So, of course, in true Aunt May fashion, she's going to climb the wall, wander off, and get herself into trouble.
Mm-hmm. That's funny.
Because it's not like they're miles away doing whatever it is they're doing in Manhattan, that the one person that Negan seemed to be worried about at the beginning of the series is going to wander off and get herself into trouble. And if the amazing LT with shades of the amazing Karnak is going to wave his crystal ball, I bet you $1 that she's going to end up in Manhattan with the Croat crew. And
I know Negan. Oh, I'll take you to him.
She doesn't talk.
No. I mean, that's what he would say to her.
Yeah.
I know Negan. I will take you to him. Do you know where he might be? And
yes, my pretty. I will take you. I'm just going, come on.
Yeah. That whole, we're still waiting to see what all that actually even means to the whole story.
Well, I have a feeling next week we're going to get something exciting.
Yeah.
Because if you weren't really noticing, I think that was the front gate of Madison Square Garden.
Mm.
Oh, yeah. And we've seen that in the trailer where there's the arena.
I don't think it's Radio City. I think it's Madison Square.
Madison Square.
Well, I think it would be infinitely more interesting to deal with the zombie Rockettes. I have a feeling it's going to be something else.
That would be fun to see, though.
Eventually, they'd start kicking, and they would, yes, their legs would fall off. Yeah.
Mm.
That is all I have for weak sauce.
Cool. I didn't really have. I mean, the only thing I would say, which I think I'm going to bring up into the watch, and I think other people do, is just we only have so many episodes, and I'm still not understanding the whole, like Marshall, and then the Jenny, and then the Croat, and then Maggie and Negan, and then these New Yorker. It's just like there's a lot of stuff going on, and it's kind of like they spent so much time showing us Marshall, which I think it is his brother, because that address thing that he was looking at said Joel Armstrong.
Yeah.
And Marshall's Armstrong. But and then that raises questions I'm going to bring up later. But it is kind of still like, okay, like this isn't
these episodes. I said it last week. The episode could benefit from being longer.
Yeah. Or a longer season, but we don't know.
Well, I'm not opposed to a 6-episode season, because when you have a 6-episode season, there has to be a lot of movement on things. There has to be a lot of they can't lollygag, to use LT's word.
Indeed.
They have to get to it, and maybe this would benefit from being a little less getting to it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, and that's kind of like we're on that kind of level where like seasons are now, like full seasons are now just 10 episodes, especially on stream.
Right.
But they are a little bit longer. They're like, because there's no commercials. Or if there are, I guess I don't know count, but still running times about like an hour.
I think to your point, Brian, is I would not have a problem with the tempo. That I think that they've sort of established a cadence. What I'm afraid of is they're trying to tell too many stories.
Yeah, it's kind of like they've got 10 episodes of story in 6 regular length episodes.
And it's not that it can't be done, but the problem's going to be if you can wrap all of these up in 6, as many as there are, it's got the tendency to get maybe a little hand wavy or a little, but of course it worked out. It's
like, I'm wondering if this is going to be AMC's format now. Like if they've gone to a 6 or a 12 episode kind of thing, and are kind of dropping the whole 10 episode or 16 episode kind of thing, and instead going for 6 or 12. And if it's a 12 episode, then it's like two 6s.
2 6s.
Because like as far as I know, this is a 6 episode. The Rick and Michonne is a 6th episode, and I believe Daryl Dixon is a 6th episode, if I'm not mistaken.
Mm-hmm.
I could be wrong about those things. And of course, Tales was 6 episodes.
Mm-hmm.
So, but then again, The Walking Dead, the first season of that was 6. The first season of Fear was 6. So there is a tendency of doing this kind of thing. It just, they could be doing a little more, I guess.
Yeah, more, and not try to be shoving too much all in at once when.
Exactly.
Well, a little more or a little less.
I would like to see I don't mind a 6 episode season, but I think trying to get it in 1 hour with commercials is a little
much.
Yeah, much. Yeah.
It's a little much. Yeah. Yeah.
All right.
Well, if that's all the week sauce, then that means it's time for the what sauce.
What?
And we got some what sauce.
Mm-hmm. I'll take Mike since I kind of responded to what he was asking question backs. So Mike from Asheville, he says, what language was Pigeon Lady speaking? Was it some type of Spanish or apocalyptic crazy city dweller language? And no, actually, because I do my rewatches and I watch, I have the subtitles on, and it was showing on there that she was speaking Hebrew. And so I actually thought about, I did. That I was like, oh wait, cool. Our phones can now translate by just listening to, someone speaking. And of course, I guess Apple doesn't have Hebrew, but Google does. So I put it up to my computer when she was speaking, because that's kind of a thing. Like the captions just said speaking Hebrew. So you have unless you know it, you don't know what she was saying. And so it was kind of like, okay, well, does it have anything to do with what's going on? Or are you just kind of, you have to just go see what the scene is. But anyways, I thought it was interesting. So when Negan asked her to take them to that building that was on fire, when they got the backpack and they were all standing in that one building,
right?
What it translated to and what she was saying, she was like, said it was very dangerous, and then impossible. So we don't know what that building on fire is, but obviously it's like you can't do that. So then when Negan and Maggie were with the New Yorkers and the girl, I don't know if they ever said her name, but the caption said Amaya, I think. But anyways, the girl, when she called Maggie's Canada story bullshit, the pigeon lady's name is Esther. She was saying, she's like, no, good people. She's like, everything will be fine. And when you rewatch that and you kind of see what she was saying, it's like, well, we know that the pigeon lady was looking at Maggie and Negan when they first got into the city, when they, when the walkers were falling from the sky, when we saw that one scene where she was kind of peering over. So I don't know. I thought this was kind of interesting that, these New Yorkers that are, they're fighting against the Croat people, and who knows how many other little gangs of people are survivors. But it was just interesting that, the pigeon lady obviously saw that Negan and Maggie were not a threat, and so that's why she was having, them follow her, this whole zip line, where she was like, no, come follow me. So she knew that they were either like off island or, obviously not, the group's enemy, and was trying to bring them in for help. So I don't know. Thought it was very interesting.
Yep.
I just wish that the captions actually had translated it so that we could see it.
Yeah.
Because it left out so much
They were going for
info.
crazy person instead. So
yeah. And then he goes on, he says, sort of a what, but how did helmet guys get blades and spikes into their helmets without going through to the inside. I just couldn't help but wonder how you go about inserting stuff into biker helmets without ruining the integrity of said helmet. Well, it's a good question. Bolts?
I mean,
I would say bolts.
Yeah.
Bolts and a welder.
Yeah.
And then some, padding on the inside so you don't...
Well, no, you wouldn't even have to do that. You just pull the pad back.
Oh, yeah, okay.
Drill the bolt, put the pad back, and then tack weld whatever pointy thing you want to onto the mountain studs.
Yeah. He said it was mentioned that Croats people sink any new boats. Can he really have that many people to cover an entire shoreline? Manhattan's pretty big. That's good.
Well, they've
question.
got cars.
True. And the stuff with Ginny and Alexandra, or was it another place? And I think it's the Hill Point 2.0 that Maggie talked about last episode. It said, what's the point? What is she going to bring to the story? Do we really need her and the Marshal? We don't need a bogged down show. Keep it lean and clean.
Because she's going to fall in love with Herschel. That's the story.
Well,
and it'll be World Beyond 2.0.
I mean, it could be, because if you saw the scene when she was in the room, talking to the woman that was like, oh, I can't remember what she said, but basically one of the teachers or somebody is saying, oh, you'll be fine here, blah, blah, blah. Then it did a flashback, but it was the exact same room, and Maggie was coming in there, and Herschel was there being total teenage Herschel, and like missing their, arm training and all this other stuff, and kind of acting like a, spoiled teenager. So I don't know, maybe that is kind of something where they're going with it, because that was a very interesting way that they went to that whole flashback. Is the same room that she was in. The next thing you know, we're seeing like the flashback with Negan and Herschel,
and they're amongst the dirty zombies in the blood and the gore and the dirt. Their eyes met across the crowded room. Where do I begin to tell the story that is older than the sea? You see the pigeons fly in slow motion.
We could. Who knows? Anyways, thank you, Mike.
All right, next up is Ivan from Minnesota, who says, still not entirely sure why they took Herschel. The people were just kind of standing there when Negan did his thing, and you'd think they would run or move. LOL. Also, I was expecting the whole city streets to be filled with walkers, so a little disappointed there.
It's almost like they were there to see the show, It's I don't know.
All those zombies walking around, not making eye contact with anybody.
Yeah. All the wallflowers.
Well, maybe they were in Central Park taking a break from lunch.
Taking a break, yeah. Well, actually, I have one of my whats, I think, might maybe be what that's supposed to be, like why there was no walkers everywhere.
Renee from Atlanta says, why do we have to see the Marshal go find his family, friend, or whomever? Shrug emoji. They only have 4 episodes left. Please stick to the originals. The Croat psycho self should be enough. I still think we're going to see like the enemy of my enemy is my friend kind of thing. Or maybe, him kind of take the advocacy, realizing that the Croat has Herschel and that Herschel's Maggie's son. I don't know. I could see him playing a role in that, but whether or not he'd ever warm up to Negan, that's another story. So,
yeah, that's true.
We don't need all of the extras. Rolling eye face, and it looks like the little girl is on her way to the island. That's the problem with TWD. They do too much, and I don't like it. Thumbs down emoji. Yes, they do too much. This is a very much of a thing that they do.
Yep.
They try to do too much when they could do a little less.
As we said, too many balls in the air at one time. All right, so that wraps it up for our listeners. And so now it's time for our what sauce. So go ahead, Brian.
Well, what is it with these leaders always leaving their people? And I'm looking at you, Maggie. I was thinking about this, and I thought, they always tend to leave. Why do they always leave? You know? Like, Negan didn't really leave his people when he was a leader, but it seems like everybody else does. And
don't you have minions for that?
Yeah, exactly. So, like, if somebody has gone and gotten Herschel, like, if she's got a community to lead, wouldn't she send a team out to get him or something and not leave it up to herself to,
right?
Because doesn't that make, like, okay, did this kind of happen with her already with the community that she was leading?
Yeah.
Oh, yes.
Yeah. With the what did they call those guys?
What? Yeah, what were they called? I totally forgot.
Not the claimers, not the
claimers.
No, they were like
and there was a preacher.
The phantoms or
it was
the P. Actually,
Pope's people.
Right.
Yes, Pope's people.
The markers or whatever they were.
The answer is...
Oh, I deleted my notes from back then.
The Chosen Ones.
See, that's the thing. Every group in the apocalypse has to have a cool name.
Yeah. Or they die.
Oh, okay. No, they said that... Okay, they weren't the Chosen... He was describing that they were the Chosen Ones. They were called the Reapers.
Okay. That's
Reapers.
why I was like, it was on the tip of my tongue. I was...
Yeah, the Reapers. Okay. Well, that was just my point. I was thinking more about it. And of course, Rick had a tendency of doing this too. So maybe it's part of her DNA because, she kind of learned leadership through Rick. But I don't know. It just seems like I don't know if I would do it myself.
Well, I understand you want to lead from the front. You want to set the example, but
she's going out alone to do
nature.
That's
nature abhors a vacuum.
Right.
And if you leave, who's to say that your sidekick is not a Croat?
And essentially, like, didn't this essentially happen with the Reapers? Like, the group that she led were, like, she was out and about or something. I don't know. Maybe I'm remembering it wrong.
Well, it just seems like every time she leaves, something bad happens.
Right.
To
exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. So, here we're going to get this again. Like, just what'll probably happen is it'll be like World Beyond again. I'm bringing up World Beyond again, but the kids leave. So this character, what's her name, leaves, the girl leaves, and suddenly Hilltop is
like
burned to and this time the burn kills everybody.
The sisters leave and Omaha gets crushed.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So they'll use some of that homemade biodiesel and they'll, send Molotov cocktails into the Hilltop and, one thing will be led to another. I don't know.
I mean, isn't that kind of the thread of The Walking Dead? It's like, we can't have nice things because every time they meet a new group, they force their way in and then it burns down to the ground.
That is another LT thing. He loves to say we can't have nice things. So
of course not. Because I'm still cheesed the fact that, okay, so we know the furnace is bad at the kingdom.
Right.
Okay. That's not necessarily irreparable. And for the love of God, build a fireplace. I mean, I just have a real problem when you have a nice walled compound with buildings and stuff, and you just go, well, we can't go back there. Let's go somewhere else.
Yeah, because
I mean, you've already led walkers out of one place. You could have gone back to the freaking prison.
Yeah.
Because the governor was dead, I do believe.
The governor was dead.
Anyway, it's still the thing of The Walking Dead is, cars brick like jailbroke iPhones, and you can't ever go back to where you were. So, I only have one hot sauce. And it's just kind of a me thing. But so the marshal goes into that tiny apartment with his dead brother in it, who's apparently been there a while. Now, just based on the square footage of that apartment and the fact that he's dead, and we'll assume that it's maybe summery, that apartment would stink like I don't know what. I hate to say it, kids, but with that little amount of air circulation and whatever amount of decomp was going on, I don't think I would have had the slow turnaround to look, cautiously into the bedroom. It would have been rather bloody apparent when you came through the door.
Yeah.
Which has been one of those things about The Walking Dead that I've often pondered about is, did the zombie virus just leave everybody minty fresh, or wouldn't there be a stench about things with all these dead people about?
Or they lost their sense of smell.
Well, that's
everything smells like poop, so
just used to it. They become accustomed.
Yeah, but I'm just telling you, man.
Death.
Little tiny room full of decomp. Don't know about that. And the other part is, to put on my Gil Grissom hat from CSI, there would definitely be some, how shall I say, insect activity.
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
But
those roaches are all just
that
down
was
in
my
the trash.
that was my whole thing. There is, he would have smelled it before he kicked the door in, and it would have hit him like a ton of bricks once he got inside.
Yeah. He would have been hand up to the nose, being like,
it would have been bad
down the hallway. Yeah. Yeah.
And again, you're not talking about a very big apartment either.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I'm again just saying.
Well, then that goes into my Watts because then that whole scene and just basically, we've been asking ourselves, like, so what's the deal with Armstrong? What's the deal with, what's her face, the girl? These stories.
Jenny,
and so,
isn't it Jenny?
Yeah, I think
I just remembered now.
Yeah, Ginny. But here we are, we obviously only have so much time and they're giving us these stories. And so whenever the scene was coming up, like we saw earlier in the episode, he was holding like a Post-it or whatever that had an address on it. And that's where luckily I don't know if they showed this last episode and it was just too quick or it was too dark. But we saw that he has an address, so he was looking for his, I guess, brother. But again, it's like, well, then how long has it been since he's seen his brother? Was something happened beforehand? Did he leave and he was like searching for him this whole time and then finally got somebody he talked to said, oh yeah, he's over at this apartment on, like, what was it called? Olive Street or whatever, or Oliver Street.
And then coinkadinkly is just where he was by the looks of it.
Well, right. And then it's like, so it just leaves a whole bunch of questions. It's kind of like, well, then did he, like, how long has they been separated? Obviously his brother was in a situation of like being in this apartment and blew his brains out, or we would assume, because he just couldn't live with anything any longer. He had tons of open canned food and stuff like that, so he was obviously surviving. So I don't know. It just kind of put this whole like, well, okay, so what's the deal? What's the relationship? It wasn't just like all of a sudden you just are like, oh, I'm going to go find my brother after 10 years of the zombie apocalypse or whatever. So it was just, I don't know. It was like, oh, you're showing us a scene to like what? Pull our heartstrings of like, oh, look, he lost his brother. But then it's like, it's just like fear. We're like, I have zero like feelings for this person I don't know. So the scene can't really give me that kind of an emotional response.
And like you were saying, part of it is, so it's like I could imagine the conversation if this was not the zombie apocalypse and they just ran into each other. The whole, I've been really busy with work, man. I've been meaning to get over here, but the bridges are blown up and I had to find a boat and
right.
Hey, I'm in town for business. So let's get together and have lunch. Yeah.
The other thing I was going to make I guess to kind of in a response to Ivan, about not seeing enough like more walkers or whatever, being filled with walkers. We do see when we saw it last episode that there's like some like basically like music or like ice cream truck or whatever driving around the city and like playing music, and then walkers are like basically being drawn to it and it's like leading them away. And then Maggie in the zip line, when she got stuck halfway, you could hear the music and then you saw the truck or whatever vehicle from below her basically cut across, you could see parts of it go basically whatever the end of the street off frame, but all the walkers are basically like following it. So it was kind of like, okay, well, so they have this thing, which now the gas was one of my questions, which now obviously the Croat's, I guess, making gas. So he has this thing. So it's like, what do? Do they just lure these walkers just roaming all around the city? And is that so that it opens up windows so people can like get out and do stuff and move around? Or like, is it a way to trap people? I don't know. It's like, what's the purpose of it? And then it also made me think, I'm like, okay, well, then why wouldn't, is this a Croat only thing? Like, is this what he's using to basically try to control whoever's still alive? Or was this something that just came out of being being big city? Because it's like, why wouldn't you have just like led those walkers into some kind of a choke point and then just shot them all? Because we've heard gunfire last episode. So it's like, there's some weaponry at least, it's like you could thin out the the millions upon millions of walkers over however long this has been going and just like kind of make it's an island, right? So there's got to be like, you could thin them out and like basically make the whole city like a big, nice place to live.
Tie the boom box to the end of the pier.
Right. And just like, well, anyways, it was like, okay, so what is the purpose of this thing? And are we going to get an answer to that? Because if it's the Croat's way of like, he's trying to like, he leads it to where he's trying to keep people from escaping or like control, or like, he's like, hey, you're District 12, you're going to be flooded with the walkers at, because I hate, mad at you because you did something, or I don't know. So that's probably why we didn't see walkers, because they were following this car somewhere.
Yeah, maybe. It's a convenient excuse not to have to spend the CGI budget.
Well, right, and they can just say, "Oh, that just answers why there's not walkers all over the place."
Maybe he's using the walkers as some sort of roving patrol to keep people contained.
Yeah, well, maybe we'll get an answer to that. I thought a little bit, and not just because I'm, I lived in Chicago for so long, but I thought the New Yorker group seemed a little weak. Like, I don't know. I just didn't feel like that I guess maybe that's supposed to be the contrast between Negan and Negan stepping up and doing his whole, routine. But it seemed, I don't know. I had this moments of like, I was watching Fear and just being like, these people aren't acting like what I would think people would act like after trying to survive for so long. And, it's like, and I also think, since it, like, even the description was talking about like, oh, it's like, Maggie and Negan run into some New Yorkers, and it's just like, I don't know. I always thought New Yorkers already try to like play or see themselves as like just total like badasses and like are the best and blah blah blah. And so I was kind of like, okay, these people seem very disorganized and very like, I don't know, just not as like ruthless as I would think like survivors in this world would be.
Little Chicago New York rivalry there.
You bet. But I don't know. I think coming off of fear, maybe it's just like that's still kind of like creeps up because of, seeing some of our main characters basically act completely not even who they are. And then I guess the only other and I put this in here just kind of more of like, I guess, not so much in the show, just of what's going on plot, I guess, but we did talk about how like Maggie seemed from the start, still very pissed off at Negan. Just like, oh, I hate you. Like, even like, it just seemed very like, since she's acting a little different than what we saw in the finale of The Walking Dead, where Negan and her had this little kind of, not a heart to heart, but basically it's just like, no, I can't forgive you. But yet Negan kind of is like, oh, hey, okay, fine. I'm going to go do my life and blah, blah, blah. And it just seemed very a different kind of situation at that point. And then this is supposed to be like, 2 years later? And now, like, she's still like acting like, oh, you just like you haven't been behind bars for like however many, I don't know. It just seemed the relationship seems very like, oh, we're back to just basically, oh, Negan hates Maggie hates Negan, and that's just what's going on. Because I felt very like at this point, Maggie knows Negan very, very well. Maggie knows the type of person Negan is. And we know Negan has had enough interactions, or even just like, you think that she would be able to still, like, she can read between the lines, or she can see that Negan is like very, like, not repentant, but obviously his past life and the stuff that he did as a savior, and obviously to Glenn, that he is that's like big weight, I think, that is weighing on him, that he feels like, it still is like him feeling like, I still have like a lot to like prove to like, I've to be forgiven, all this other stuff, and it still bothers him. But I just still feel a little bit of like how I just think Maggie, especially in this situation, would be like, okay, I get you. I'm not happy with you, but also I'm like this is probably the best person that you would want on your side in the situation. Like, right. That Maggie knows that Negan, well, now she knows that Negan knows Croat and knows like the history. There's a connection there, just like a history. And she's trying to go in. Yeah. Like Brian said, just like why they always leave to go take care of these matters on their own with no help. But then it's like, who would you want by your side if it wasn't, if it wasn't Negan? Like, it's
right.
He just basically demonstrated to you that he can totally flip that switch, and when he wants to protect his people, and Maggie, you should be thinking, I'm one of his people, that this is a good place to be.
Well, and it's like you said, Kyle, that we knew they didn't, we knew there was still some unresolved problems. We knew they don't like each other. They did all that stuff. They got over their little squabble in the subway, and they fought together, and they ended up, kind of doing the, well, I don't like you, but, you're okay kind of thing. Mm-hmm. And then we're back to square one again, where Maggie is just despising him. And like I said, she's definitely can hold a grudge and bring it back up when you think things are okay.
Yeah. Yeah, it seems very like, wow, she's going above and beyond about this grudge thing whenever there's like this whole, it's like, I think we were saying, it's like, keep your friends close, keep your enemies closer. And it's like, even Rick, like, knew that Negan had, like could use Negan in way, like, knew that he had something he could use Negan for. And obviously Negan was the one that killed Alpha, it's like, and mm-hmm. Carol knew what Negan was capable of, and knew that, like, hey,
Negan, like I said, Negan killed Alpha. Negan saved Judith. Negan saved Dog.
Yeah.
I want to show you something since you just said this, and I think I can put it up to the TC.
No.
Oh, it disappeared. The camera made your background.
Oh, that's what happened. Okay.
I just see your fingers.
Okay. It says, hold on. Oh, now it went away. It said when I pulled up whatchamacallit earlier, I pulled up the Google Play Store on my Android phone. And because I still have my iPhone, but my iPhone doesn't, it's because it's tied to a cell phone service that I don't have anymore. Anyway, so I've got this crappy Android phone. And anyway, the very first thing that I see, it says for you. It has an ad for the AMC Plus app. And the title is Keep Your Enemies Close. And there's a picture of Negan holding some kind of bat-like device, but it's not a bat. It's about the size of a bat. And you see the Statue of Liberty, and you see Maggie looking at him, giving him the side eye. And it looks like a couple of other people on the side. I think that might be Herschel and Jenny. I don't know, but what this is. Yeah, anyway, it's just kind of funny that you just said keep your enemies close.
Yeah, I don't know. Another little, I don't know. A little disconnect.
Actually, I don't know what that is. I don't think it's maybe
like
it's two fires or something. I don't know. It's weird.
Huh.
But anyway.
Well, that was pretty much all I had for my what's. So.
All right. Well, it looks like that next up, we've got our sad and aw sauce. Aww. And we only got one piece of sad aw sauce, and it was from Renee from Atlanta. She says, the pigeon lady dying was supposed to be sad, but really and truly, I didn't really care. But because I'm a crybaby, I was sad when the guy was crying and when he said, I lied when I said we have people. It's just us and the people that we lost. And she finishes up with a duh.
Yeah, I could, it was a little sad there, I guess, with that.
Yeah.
All
well,
right.
and that leads us to our sad and all sauce. And Kyle, you're up.
I have to agree. Esther, the pigeon lady, getting killed. It was sad, and especially after hearing what she was saying about the translation, and just seeing that she was actually saw our people as being, like, hey, no, these aren't the bad guys; these are good guys, and trying to like get them, bring them together with her group, and then basically getting killed by the Daft Punk dudes. I thought it was interesting because right before she got stabbed, that guy was saying Doma Somo, and I might have misspelled that, but he just kept repeating that, and that's what the captions were saying. And I was like thinking, like, oh, hey, what's that translate to? Because obviously there's different languages going on, but I couldn't find a translation for that. But basically, though, it happens to be the title of the final episode of Dead City. So more to come on what this thing is, that they're saying.
Yep.
But again, sad. That girl, the pigeon lady definitely could have had more of a, more of a role in the show. If this was a longer, season, I think she could have been like a fun little quirky character
It would have been interesting to see, because generally we don't see too many old folks that survive this long into the apocalypse.
Yeah, and she was kind of like a very, like, not cat-like, but, just like in the shadows, knew how to kind of sneak around and not be seen. And that would have been kind of fun to see, like, her causing shenanigans.
Yep. That the pigeon lady had a little bit of spunk in her.
Mm-hmm.
I guess it was sad because I was going, here's the character that got Negan and Maggie into the crew.
Mm-hmm.
And you could tell that she was, she was kind of one of the more I don't know, compassionate characters, one of the characters that was maybe a little more sympathetic, and they killed her.
Yep. That's another thing Walking Dead likes to do. Well, I guess Fear did. It was like you get introduced to a character and they seem really cool and you really like them, and then boom, they rip them right out of your hands. It's like,
Yep.
Oh.
Of course, they did that for a few characters that we like to see die, like Chris.
True.
Nobody liked that character.
No, I remember that. Oh, goodness.
Yes, and if you don't remember who Chris is Travis's son
from his other mama.
Oh,
right.
Yeah. Well,
yes.
I think I've made my opinion pretty clear on who I wanted to survive in that after that first episode. Anyway, I was going to say the other thing is, while he was a bad guy, you could almost percolate just a tiny bit sad about the guy that Negan, gave the Colombian necktie, Harry Carey bit to on the railing. I guess that's where they spent the majority of their practical effects budget for this episode.
Yeah, that's for sure.
Mm-hmm.
Because, like I said, when he first cut him, I'm like, holy cow. Whoa, holy cow. It's like, yep. I said, Nicotero got his money's worth if he did the special effects for this one.
I think he earned his consulting producer credit.
Yeah. And when they showed the guys down the bottom deck, just the spray, the splatter, and then the plops of those strings of chitlins that came flying down out of him. It was just like, whoa, whoa.
Yeah, it was pretty intense, gross scene. Yeah, and I guess I could say it's sad because that poor guy, it could have been somebody else, but no, he was the one that was chosen.
He definitely got the Negan treatment.
Yep. Goodness.
All right. Well, if that's all our sad sauce, then that means it's time for the feedback.
We can talk about it. Done talking. Time to listen.
All right. Well, I will just go ahead and take this because we did get a voicemail from Renee. I have not listened to it, so I don't know exactly, what she's going to discuss. She did say sorry for being so long, but we love you, Renee, so we will go ahead and play that now.
Hi guys, this is Renee from Fairburn. I'm calling in about Dead City. First of all, Brian, I'm so happy that you're back. I'm so happy to hear your voice. I'm so happy that the three amigos are back together again. And I'm truly sorry. My heart goes out to you. You're getting a divorce. I can only imagine how hard that is to go through that. So, yeah. But Brian, what I wanted to say to you is please let LT read my feedback. Because I'm like, Brian has me sounding like I'm speaking Ebonics. I'm like, but what I realized, Brian, is that you're from Canada. So you may not understand the dialect of people from Georgia. And I know that I tend to be country, and not only country, I'm Geechee. And when I'm writing my feedback, I try to be aware of that and to make sure that I don't write like I speak. Because I do tend to mispronounce words or use slang or do stuff like that. So, but yeah, I'm like, I do not like the way that Brian is reading my feedback. He's not understanding what I'm saying. But LT, on the other hand, he understands. And I'm assuming because LT was in the military and he has traveled all over the world, so he understands that everybody does not have the same vernacular. And, in certain areas, everybody dialect is different. And down here in Georgia, we can be country. No, not can be country. We are country. And I'm definitely, not only am I country, but I'm Geechee because I'm from, Savannah. So, yeah, let LT read my feedback, Brian, please. But Dead City. Oh, and then another thing I'm going to tell you guys. Listen, life has been lifing. And Brian, when I say life has been lifing, that means I've just been so busy, things has been happening back to back, and I'm sure that's in everybody, life, that things have been going on, because I actually had a voicemail for Fear, the finale, and then I had a voicemail for Dead City. And when you all was when I was listening to the podcast, it was 3 hours long, and I really enjoyed that because you guys have been kind of short to the point and over, and that's it. It's been like an hour. So, cause you guys just don't know, y'all help me get through my gym workout. Like seriously, I thank God for y'all every day. Cause you guys really help me get through that gym workout because, you're the camaraderie that you all share. It's like, and then not only just you guys, it's like with the other people that's on the podcast. I mean, you guys feel like family. Like, I've never met you guys, but it seems like I know you guys. Like, we really are a family. And so and look, I done got off track. So, but anyway, yeah, life has been lifing. So I actually sent I actually had a voicemail for both shows. And when you all didn't play it on Fear, I'm like, why didn't they play my voicemail? And then when you all did Dead City, you didn't play it. I'm like, what in the world? What's going on? So I went back to go check the email, and I'm like, I never even sent the voicemails, but I'm not going to send it back. I'm not going to send them because this one is going to be long in itself. Mike, don't say anything because I'm going to be long on this one because I definitely had to address Brian reading my feedback. So Brian, again, let LT read it. But Dead City, this week it was kind of slow. I don't like the martial aspect of it because, like I said in my feedback, I don't want all these flashbacks. That really wasn't a flashback. He actually, I guess, went to, I'm assuming, his brother or somebody's apartment. I don't care about that. And really, I don't care about the marshal. I know that someone said in the podcast that they feel like he's going to switch over to maybe our side. I don't see that. I see him as being a religious zealot. And I feel that way because he was saying when he was trying to get Negan and Maggie that he was married, he had kids, he had, he didn't smoke, he didn't drink. And when they went to the bar, they was putting up the cigarettes and they was putting up the alcohol and stuff. And the way that he killed that lady and the way that he said that he wanted to cause harm to Negan because what Negan did, whatever he thinks or whatever Negan did, I feel like he's just a religious zealot. And I don't listen, we have went through this before. And that's the problem with Walking Dead. To me, it becomes like they start repeating the same thing, like the same villain. Like we already went through this. We don't need another villain like that again. I didn't want that. What I really was hoping with the different shows that they was going to do like maybe 6 or 8 episodes of, Dead City, and that's over with, is a wrap, not bringing it back. Then Daryl, 6 or 8 episodes over with, then Rick, and then so on. Then they add someone else from the Walking Dead series that they would, do a series on. See, I like that. But what happens, it becomes redundant and it gets boring because again, you only can do so many different types of villains. And I need them to just, and then another thing, Kyle, when I was saying from, you said you thought I was saying Fear. I was talking about from the TV series that's on MGM. It is so good. You guys need to check it out. It was really good, at the start. And then of course it just went downhill. So I was saying, please don't do that. Just don't do that. Don't have it start out good and then it just goes downhill. I don't like that. And to me, it will work out better if they just ended the Maggie and Negan series and then go on to the next. But yeah, Dead City it was not like the first episode, which I don't expect for all of them to be that way. But if you only have 6 episodes, to me, every episode needs to be really good. Every episode. Then I want to harken back on last week's episode about the gun. I feel like that Maggie left the gun intentionally because she didn't want, when Negan said to her, how many mothers and fathers have you killed? She didn't want to feel like she killed somebody, killed another father. So I feel like that's why she left the gun. That's just my thought, that she left the gun so that, once he wake up, because she knew she didn't kill him, she knew that she just knocked him out. And she felt like, in order for him to get up out of there, he was going to need his gun. And then the Negan arc, I understand that they're trying to show a redemption arc for Negan. And I realized that Negan, he's saying that he did things for his people, just like y'all had to do things for y'all people or whatever. But Negan didn't just kill people. Negan had a harem of women. Negan burned people. They need to address all of that when it comes to Negan. For me, I mean, I'm better when it comes to Negan. I can look at him a little differently, but I feel like don't just skate around the fact that he had a harem of women. I mean, if he just had the women and he wasn't messing with them, say that, whatever. But don't skate around all the other things that Negan did, because at the end of the day, Rick, Carol, all of them did things that they would not, I'm sure they would not do in the normal world, but they did not have a harem of women. They didn't burn people. They did things for their people. But Negan having women, I don't understand that, Negan. I need for you to address that. And that's why I cannot get just all the way down with Negan like that. I cannot. It's just not. But and then I understand Negan when he turned into the old Negan when he was cracking the jokes and stuff, and then the way that he split the man, busted his head or whatever and did all of that. And I understand that he felt like I have to be the old Negan again, and I can see the remorse in his eyes when he was looking at Maggie. I can see that he didn't want her to see him like that, but I feel like she understands that in order for her to get her son back, then Negan is going to have to be Negan. And I can accept Negan being that type of Negan, but not the type of Negan that has a harem of women. That's something I cannot accept. And the zip line, I enjoy that because I love zip lining. And Mike, I know you said that I just go on and on and on, so I'm getting ready to end this. Okay, I will talk to you guys later. Peace and love. Bye.
Thank you, Renee. Always. Oh, goodness. Yeah, you got a lot to say there.
Whoa, what happened? Renee, I feel like I've been talking to my wife here. I don't mean that specifically, but okay. Well, sorry if I don't read your...
You realize that we are kind of we're almost like the UN here anyway.
What do you mean?
Well, we've got our, our Sooner, our Canadian, and of course, as me, I will don the obligatory redneck chair. And despite my cosmopolitan experiences, Renee, I was born on a tobacco farm, so
I was just gonna say, I wish we would have listened to that before, because I did some of your feedback, so that tells you that we didn't hear this before. But point noted. I only want to say one thing in my defense, and it's not a defense as more as it is an excuse. I'm rusty, so prior to the last episode, LT and I recorded the Star Trek, Strange New Worlds talk through, and we had only recorded the one episode, and we had no feedback at all. So I'm still a little rusty, and especially I was reading feedback for an episode that I didn't actually watch. So. I just wanted to make those 2 points. So I'm a little rusty, and I think I was a little wooden. It was probably not the best idea for me to read the feedback. And I listened to the episode last night, actually. And that was kind of my take as well. I felt a little stunted, just listening to myself. Yeah.
It's your new alter ego, Rusty Wooden.
Anyway, the point being is that point noted. Sorry if I didn't get your, I don't know. I think I understand that. I've been living. I lived in Oklahoma now. I lived in North Florida and West Virginia, so it's not like I'm completely South illiterate, I guess. But yeah, You know, I'm still Canadian. Let's face it.
You're Southern adjacent.
Yeah, I'm not. I'm just anyway. But point noted, and I think LT, you do a better job reading your feedback anyway. But but I wanna point out something else you said actually near the end of your voicemail, and it's something that I have been kind of considering, and I think I mentioned a little bit last episode, and I probably mentioned a little bit this episode. It's kind of like the Croat is the psychopathic Negan, whereas Negan is the sociopathic Negan, and a psychopath probably wouldn't have a harem, whereas a sociopath probably would have a harem. You know, so like, why did Negan have a harem? I mean, yeah, I got to admit, I would like to hear an explanation of that as well. And it does take him down a notch, especially when, and we were talking about this already, or at least, you know, we were thinking about it. I did mention, I think, earlier about this. And if I didn't, I was certainly thinking about it, that, you know, he had, there was a modus operandi to him, and he was doing it for an effect and to try, you know, he was trying to lead his people. And I think a lot of it was for show, but did he have to have a harem? Like, in his mind, he may have been thinking, well, you know, I'm protecting these women by keeping them close, but, you know, I mean, that doesn't mean he had to make them his wife.
I was just going to say, don't hate the player, baby. Hate the game.
Anyway, yeah. So that's my take on it. But I'm sorry.
Well, and I would want to put out there though, like Renee, like the show doc, how everything is like, it's somewhat random of how we pick and start reading stuff. Like each Watt sauce and stuff like that, depending on who's talking, or like, you know, some new members come in, or like new people say stuff, like it jumps around of like who's actually in the order of, like, you know, like Watt sauce, we have Deetta, Glynis, and we have Megan Lemon, which hopefully we'll hear from her at some point again. Yep. But it's like, but then the next one, it's like completely all over the place. So when we're reading it, we're just kind of taking turns. So it's not like that, oh, Brian's only reading yours. It just happened to be like, you got it.
It's worth saying that we have a bunch of names in the feedback doc, and we kind of like put them in where their name is. Even if, like, you were the first one to put in your feedback, if you were sixth in the document order, you probably got your feedback in sixth, even though you were first. So, right.
And part of the reason we do that is I don't really look ahead, so I don't know how big a drop there's going to be from section to section. And the reason we rotate is just so it's not, you know, I get 2 lines from one person and Kyle has to read the Gettysburg Address and then Brian gets a paragraph and then Kyle has to read the Magna Carta. I mean, we're trying to spread the love around, and sometimes it just happens that way.
Yeah. And it's also a good thing sometimes, and, you know, maybe we need to think about this, but like, not for one person to read somebody's feedback every single time, right? And every single sauce. Like, you want to have a little bit of variety there, so that, you know, it doesn't become, well, you know, speaking for Renee is LT every single time. You know what I mean? So, yeah. But it depends, I guess.
It's just,
maybe we need to maybe we need to like take requests, and then it'll be like, you know, Brian, could you please read this week? Could you please read, you know, I like it when Kyle does it. Can you, you know, so we'll like maybe, put in a tip jar or something like that. you could put in $1 and have Brian read your feedback, or put in another $1 and have LT read your feedback. I don't know. I do know.
I was gonna say, look, we're, if you want the cameo special appearance to do the, hey, I'll give you $10 if you read my feedback.
Well, and it's also worth saying, it's always the three of us, but, well, it's not always the three of us because I'm not always here. And there are times when all of us have missed. But anyway, my point being is, if somebody wants to come on the guest,
yeah,
we'd love to have you, and we've had that, for special episodes, like episode 153. Not released yet. Anyway, so
hey now.
I know. Well, no, I also volunteered to do that too, and I haven't done it. So it's just as much my fault as yours.
I started off as a special guest host.
You sure did.
Yeah, you did.
And I was dragooned into full time.
Yeah, you were called up to the bigs, Crash Davis style.
Yep. No longer the Crash Davis of podcasting. I got a job.
You got a couple jobs.
I may be the third stringer for the Cubs, but I have a job.
Oh, well, and all just in response to her saying that she enjoyed the 3-hour version and we're now going on to 2-hour recording, I would like to continue on because they have been short because it's been easier to edit that way.
Yeah, it's true. It's true. And the longer it is to record, the more difficult it is to edit. Not just because you have to listen to it, but I'm having this problem right now with the Star Trek episode. I'm running out of space on my C drive, and it's going to a crawl, and I'm having to reboot my system every 12 hours or so because it keeps running out of memory.
Yeah.
I shouldn't say memory. I should say what do you call it? Temp file. Running out of temp files. Yeah. So there's not enough storage left on my C drive to make the thing run properly. So,
so
I need to fix that.
In the spirit of us waxing philosophical, I think the last, you want to do the orange?
No, we're going next is Ivan. Thank you, Renee, as always.
Thank you, Renee. We love you.
Thank you, Renee. We love you. And I'm glad to be back.
Yay.
I guess I'll read Ivan. Ivan from Minnesota says, fun episode that felt a bit slow for me. All the Negan stuff was great, but the Marshall guy and the little girl dragged on a bit for me, and I don't care about them as much.
Mm-hmm.
Indeed.
I would agree on both points.
Yes, I would agree as well. I will take Mike from Asheville, and he says, I really like the aesthetics of the show and the setting. Negan being involved was a great choice. I personally can switch out Maggie with anyone else and be fine. The whole anger and grieving wife thing is getting old. Considering how many years it's been, it's a world that fell apart. It's time to move on, which is why she wasn't a great choice to be in this show. Even with moving on, she would still have a hatred towards Negan. She would not take him along on a mission. He's perfect for this sort of trip, though. Like he told her, he is a monster only when he needs to be. He knows how to stay alive, and she does not like the way he goes about it. And right, we just kind of talked about that. It's like, girl, like at some point after all this time, you got to read the room. You need him to get Herschel back. And then he goes on, I'm curious to see where the show goes and then how it ends. This is a far cry from the openness of the main show, and Fear in a city feels very claustrophobic. The show feels fresh. Also, the group that Negan and Maggie found, why are they still on the island? In all this time, they could have put together some type of raft. Yes, lots of bloaters in the water, but they aren't exactly Olympic swimmers coming for the boat. Oh, bringing up questions that we'll never get an answer to.
And there should be some sporting goods stores in New York. You think they could find a rubber boat?
Yes.
All right. Next up's Glenn from Toronto, who says Marshall Armstrong should have known better to get caught in that trap like a rookie. So I guess he doesn't know the Croat personally. So interesting to me how he got to know about Glenn and Maggie's details with Negan. A pity that woman was killed who stole Negan and Maggie's stuff, as she had character with extinguishing Negan's light last episode. We just got to know her through the chase by zipline to her group, and then bam, she was dead, her life extinguished. Maggie seemed fearful of the zipline, hesitating to ride it. I wonder what's going on with her. She seems second-guessing herself. She wasn't ever like that previously. Maybe she's scared she'll die and Herschel will then be without a mother and anyone to rescue him.
She could just be, have a fear of heights.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, she was born on a farm in Georgia, and
right.
The opportunity for going crevassing is a little low. Okay. Maggie will even be more wary of Negan after his vicious kill that she witnessed, but she also knows he's really the only one to attempt to rescue Herschel. So I guess Ginny is on her way to New York too, which will put her at risk of being captured by the Croat and opening up Negan to be manipulated by the Croat, and Negan will lose his bargaining power. Or maybe it'll just push Negan over the edge and he'll stop with the warnings and just go on a murder spree.
Well, I think that's obviously, yes, Jenny is totally doing as Carl, but then is probably going to cause a problem and get caught.
And just for editorial content, is she like the third Jenny in the series?
In the universe,
just seems like we've had a lot of Jennies.
Jennies, yeah. It's like they could come up with another name. Oh, well, I know next episode we're supposed to be seeing that cage fight or something looking thing, and Negan being a part of it. So obviously there's, something obviously happened. So I don't know if that's towards the end. They start with that, but yeah, I guess they're about to meet the Croat.
Yeah, and I'm kind of going to bet that that's where the Marshal ends up.
Yep, because he's in the trap. So I guess they're going to be fighting against each other.
I have an answer for that. So for there have been, this is the second Ginny, and there was a Jenny. So Jenny was, of course, Morgan's wife, and but this is the second Ginny. So,
are you talking about? Are we talking about Virginia from Fear?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
We are.
Okay.
We
That's
are.
What, okay.
Yeah.
And I was going to say, pen.
All right.
Just because in my vernacular, there's less of a nuance between Ginny and Jenny.
Right. I agree.
Yep.
All right. Well, guys, do we have anything else, or have we pretty much said what we're going to say?
I think pretty much.
I mean, I'll just say that I'm interested. I think that it's 2 episodes in, it's pretty good. It's maybe, I don't know, like I thought the first couple of episodes of Fear were good, especially the second. If you're judging the first 2, like the second episode was really good. World Beyond, I couldn't stand. The Tales of the Walking Dead, I remember those first 2 episodes were really good, very different, but very good. And this is good, but as I said, like, I don't have a problem with the 6 episodes. I just wish that there were an extra 5 or 10 minutes per episode so they could tell a little bit more story. And it also probably, the fact that, and I didn't even realize this last week and you guys didn't say anything about it. There was no Talking Dead, and the fact that there is no Talking Dead, I think it kind of, I always thought the Talking Dead kind of like adds additional color and maybe explains certain things that maybe you didn't catch. And we don't have that with this show. So it's, it could use it.
Yeah, no, I agree. And I didn't bring anything up I didn't bring it up last week because I just actually didn't know if it was even on, because I was like, oh, I barely got to watch the episode. And I was like, maybe because I don't usually watch The Talking Dead until sometimes like way after, even after we've already recorded. And then I'll finally get back to it.
That's often the case with me, especially watching it on AMC Plus these days, because I don't even have cable anymore. Talking Dead is usually on 4 days later, unless if you're watching the live stream, you can pick it up. But if you don't pick it up on the live stream, you don't get to see it until like Thursday. But and
I'm still, and like I said, I'm still the fogey. I guess I still watch mine on broadcast and typically leave it on AMC until I go to bed. So if they show it, twice and then show something else in the middle and then show it again, I'll get 2 or 3 watches in, even though that is much to the consternation of my lovely bride, the beautiful and long-suffering Mrs. LT, who's like, are you still watching this? Are you watching this again? And I'm like, yes. I'm like, yes, baby, I'm watching it again. I'm taking notes.
Yeah, I got the same issues that used to crop up with my current but soon to be ex-wife. She would give me that all the time back in the day. Why are you still watching it? You already just watched it.
You watch it the first time. You watch it the first time for color. You watch it the second time for cues, and then I do the last time for context.
Right.
Right. I wish I had time for that.
Yeah, and the case of like, I don't know why they don't release day of, especially when these days I don't think Talking Dead is live in most cases. It's usually
pre-recorded.
Pre-recorded. Yeah. So there's no reason why they can't, unless there's some stupid union thing, or I don't know.
Yeah. I would say that's a possibility.
Or licensing, or I don't know.
Of course, also I would say maybe they're trying to save budget.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, because they usually post it, but like I had brought up in our chat, it's like, I went to go look for it after this episode, and I was like, oh, well, I didn't watch it last week. I want to get to see it because, I didn't get to see it. And I went to go look for it, and it wasn't there.
It's gone.
Not only was it not there, the only ones that they had on there were from 2020. And I'm like, what the hell?
Yeah.
So, yeah, it was basically stuff from like the Zoom Talking Deads, I guess you could say.
All right. Well, if that's all we have, it's time for news, ratings, and info.
There's a couple weird stories on the news.
There's Shane. All right. Well, we got ratings, and we'll talk about ratings a bit later, but I think, won't we, Kyle? We did get ratings for last week, so let's start with that. I'm going to do this out of order. Fear the Walking Dread, as you so accurately put in there. Season
that
8,
was a typo.
Well, it was a perfect typo.
Yes.
Season 8, episode 6, on June 18th. It got a 0.06 in the 18 to 49 demographic with 463,000 viewers. That made it at number 54 for the night on cable. That means that we didn't get anything for the 25 to 54 or the 50 and over, because on Showbuzz Daily, they only show that for the top 50. And in terms of The Walking Dead Dead City, that same night, season 1, episode 1, the first episode got a 0.17 in the 18 to 49 with 704,000 viewers. That put it at number 8. And it was a 0.24 in the 25 to 54 and a 0.40 in the 50 and over.
I would have to say, because I do remember it, and I thought I put it in here. It was simulcast on like 2 other networks, I think.
Yes, it was.
So yes. It wasn't just like, only on that one, on AMC at the time.
However, that is just the AMC number. I looked at it earlier today, so
okay,
that's only the AMC number.
So good.
On it was also on BBC America, and I want to say Sundance.
I thought that might have been
both of those are in the same conglomerate with AMC.
Yes, they are all part of AMC networks. Just taking a quick look here. It got a 0.04 on Sundance TV and a 0.03 on BBC America. And I don't know what the total number of viewers are.
Oh, obviously the main channel got the listeners.
Yeah. Sundance, it got 96,000 viewers, and it was at number 74. And it was on BBC America. It got actually more viewers at 116,000. But because the lower demographic, it was at number 107. So anyway, for this episode, it got a 0.14 in the 18 to 49 with, strangely enough, a little bit more viewers, 706,000 viewers. But of course, as we just indicated, it was on other other channels last week. So the combined number, was more than 704,000. So it would have been like 900 and something thousand. Anyway, it was a number 21 in demographic. It got a 0.19 in 29 to 54 and 0.43 in the 50 and over. Looking at the parrots, again, they still have not released anything on the parrots for the top 10s since the week of June, ending June 9th. I'm just confirming that, just in case they snuck one in. Yeah, that's still the case. But Fear the Walking Dead, which I thought it was funny, its IMDb rating is only 6.9 out of 10. It got a 24.4 demand of times the demand of an average show, which puts it in the outstanding. It is at a 99.6 percentile in the drama genre. And it's 100% available in the US. Walking Dead Dead City is up from last week. It is in the 8.4 times the demand of an average show, which still puts it in the outstanding, but it's obviously on the low end of the outstanding. But it's up 49.1% from last in the last 30 days. It is 99.8 percentile in the genre, which it doesn't say what genre it's in. But again, it's available 100% of the markets. Walking Dead, which I just wanted to see, and sure enough, it's still charting pretty high. It's still in the exceptional with 45 times the demand of an average show, but down 3.9%. But it does put it in the 100 percentile of drama, and it's still available in 100% of all markets. That's all we have for the parrots and the ratings. And Kyle, you have something to say about the ratings and news.
Yes. So we're finding out that Showbuzz Daily is now shutting down. They're not going to. I don't know what they said, that they're still going to be posting some, but at some point, the site, I think, is just going to just shut down. And
yeah, I think what it said is they were going to still do box office stuff.
Okay, yeah.
And but in breaking news, Talk Through Media is now buying Showbuzz Daily. I'm kidding, but I don't know. It's funny. It's funny how, but
I thought we were going to buy Bed Bath and Beyond.
Oh, there you go. There you go. Bed Bath Beyond.
Yeah.
Yes.
Well, anyways, I think going forward, the parrots, if they ever do, but I think we'll keep doing the ratings until Showbuzz stops doing it, and then we'll just have to figure another way to do it, or maybe a different way we're going to do it, or there's find another site out there that has, because I mean, it is like one of the reasons Showbiz was saying that they were kind of shutting down is like, the television market has definitely changed, and linear TV is kind of like not really a good way to be like rating, like showing how popular show is. Parrots, I think definitely are doing a lot because it's like going across like Twitter and social media, I'm sure, like hashtags, like all that kind of stuff.
Right. Yeah.
So that's definitely much more active than someone sitting and watching it, with the DVR, and like, I typically don't watch it when it first airs. It's usually
although like I question some of the parrots because is SpongeBob really the most popular show? I mean,
right. It's like, I don't know. Is there bots out there that are just...
Well, could you make the correlation that just because there's so many SpongeBob memes?
That's exactly what I was about to say, is that there are so many memes with SpongeBob that it probably does really well. And that's why probably like things like Game of Thrones and, the Mandalorian and stuff like that has so much, it charts even when the show's not on.
Right. Yeah.
But anyway,
if it was anything, just by the amount of chatter you get, I mean, let's be honest, Star Wars fans are incredibly chatty.
Yeah.
No, and that's same as like Star Trek, and same as like Walking Dead. It's like when on Twitter, sometimes it's like, especially after the show's aired, like the day or like what, there's a lot that's being posted, so it's kind of, I guess, again, another matrix of like, how are they doing it? Yeah, the memes. If that's also somehow being picked up, well, then yeah, I use a meme for everything, and it doesn't matter what show, and people probably do that 20 billion times a second.
And just proves we need to make more zombie memes.
Well, and how many times does The Walking Dead get picked up when they're actually talking about fear, or they're talking about this show, or plus, like, there are a lot of Walking Dead memes, and there's going to continue to be. So, but it's worth saying, like, if you look at that number, it's 45 times. Yeah, that's still pretty good considering the show has been off now for several months.
Yeah.
Yep. And like probably Game of Thrones, will continue to be charting. And for like years, Breaking Bad was still charting, and that show had been off the air for like 9 something years. I don't know if it's still, I'd have to look to see if it was still charting, but it was charting for quite a while. Yeah, I'm just going to pull up the last. Yeah, it's not there right now, but like Game of Thrones, for example, is number 4.
Yeah.
There's no Game of Thrones on right now. They're like the other, was it called
House of Dragons or whatever.
House of the Dragon. That hasn't been on for a while either. Yet it's still number 4. So,
Right.
Anyway.
Yeah. And the only other news is that it has been confirmed that Carol is joining Daryl in the spinoff. So that is awesome news. And whatever changed in that, I'm just glad that it's happening, because I felt like Daryl Dixon, like, just by himself without Carol was going to be just kind of like, okay, well, yeah, Daryl's a great character, and him being off in France, it's like, and he's kind of like a little bit action hero-y, but then also Carol is like just as much of a badass. So,
well, yeah, and I think I think that gives me a lot more excitement about the show.
Yep.
Than if it was just Daryl by himself. I think Daryl and Carol, and it makes sense, right? Like these shows that they've built now, they have the Negan and Maggie show. They'll have a Rick and Michonne show, and they'll have a Daryl and Carol show. Like all of these make sense. Now we need like a Eugene and Princess show or something, or
Eugene and Jerry.
Jerry.
Oh yes,
Jerry. Or for that matter, Ezekiel and Jerry. Jerry.
Oh, that's funny.
Anyway,
yeah.
But my point being is that I think that this is good for the show, and I wonder what changed. Like, was this just contract negotiation, or is she like a recurring? I didn't read the article, so I don't know, but
I skimmed through it or whatever, but it just sounded, it didn't mention anything about about contract or whatever. It was just more
maybe
of
it'll
speculating that her schedule changed, and so she was able to join.
Yeah. Okay.
Maybe
maybe it'll be like
a fat check.
Maybe it'll be like Sex in the City and Samantha. Whatever. What's the name of that new show? Like that or something like that. I haven't. But anyway, supposedly Samantha from Sex in the City is on the show now, but she doesn't share any like actual screen time with the characters. Mm-hmm. So they're like shooting all their stuff separately. Well, maybe that's what they're doing with Carol. They're shooting all Melissa McBride's, scenes in Georgia somewhere. And then she's talking to Daryl, who's in the next room, but he's in Paris or something. Who knows?
Or they do the meanwhile back in Alexandria.
Yeah. Separate storyline,
Yeah.
Anyway.
The only comment I was going to make was the teaser for the Daryl Dixon show was a lot of him walking and a lot of rotating drone shots.
Yeah, they're not releasing much unless they haven't really recorded it.
Yeah, I haven't had a chance to watch that yet. I saw that it came out, but I didn't watch it yet.
All right. Well, that's pretty much all I had for any news for this week. So, hey, LT, you want to tell people how to interact with us?
Yes, I will, Kyle. We want to encourage you to follow us on Twitter and Instagram. That's @WalkingDeadTTM. To submit your theories and feedback, most people post in the designated episode thread in our Facebook group. That's facebook.com/groups/WalkingDeadTTM. You can send us email. That's walkingdead@talkthroughmedia.com. You can also use the feedback forum on our webpage. That's talkthroughmedia.com/feedback. If you'd like to leave us voicemail, you can call area code 216-232-6146. Remember that all of our new episodes are out on YouTube. Just search for Talk Through Media and remember to subscribe and click that bell to get notified when we have new videos. We also want you to like and review the Talk Through Media Facebook page at facebook.com/talkthroughmedia. Of course, the absolute best way you can support us is through our Patreon. That's www.patreon.com/walkingdeadtalkthrough. And we'd like to thank all of our Patreon supporters: Renee Murray, Deetta Patterson, Mike Rollo, me, and Kyle McAdams.
Yay!
Remember that Deetta, Renee, Mike, Kyle, and LT will both be getting an early version of the episode this week.
I already got it.
So did I. Subscribe to us on Apple Podcasts or the podcast client of your choice. While you're there, give us a rating or a review. You can also leave us a review at podchaser.com. You can rate individual episodes or the whole podcast. And remember to share our posts on Facebook and Twitter when we post them, or tell a friend. Word of mouth is the best way to get us new listeners. So, Brian, what else is going on in the network?
Well, as if you didn't know, LT. I am pleased to say that LT and I have released a brand new episode of Star Trek Strange New Worlds Talk Through. It's a little bit late coming out, but we recorded last week the season premiere episode for the show, covering season 2, episode 1, The Broken Circle. We have recorded our second episode that is still being edited right now. Patreons will get it first, like they did this one. They got it on Monday, I believe, and then I released the episode on the feed, Tuesday morning or whatever. So that's out, and it's good to be back covering Star Trek. I feel like my creative life is coming back, and I missed it. So it's good to be podcasting again. So we're covering that, and once that's done, I believe Lower Decks will be coming on for season 4, and we missed covering season 3. So I don't know, at some point we'll eventually cover season 3. Kyle, don't know if you'll join us for that, but I hope you do, at least for an episode or two. But yeah, we'd love to have you if you can swing it. And of course, Rebinge Deep Space Nine is still going strong. We had some sad news within the Star Trek universe this past week that Paramount Plus has decided to rescind its renewal of Star Trek Prodigy for season 2. And I believe as of today, it is no longer found on the channel or on the streaming service. So you can't, if you haven't seen it, you can't watch it right now.
I think it's out. I think it is out on Blu-ray.
Okay. So if you have Blu-ray, you can watch it. But I heard that if it's, I thought that it was only the first half that was available.
I don't know. I just,
yeah. Well, anyway, my point being is that they have removed that show, and it's kind of tragic. I think that they didn't do a very good job of marketing it. They didn't really understand how to market it. And it's a good show. I know James and Kim are sad to see it go. I'm sure they'll probably talk about it on Rebinge DS9 at some point when they catch up, because their episodes are recorded early. So at some point they'll talk about it. Or maybe they'll release a Prodigy episode. I don't know. We haven't talked about it to know. We will be talking about it for episode 2. LT and I talked about it for a good 15, 20 minutes, I think. So we'll cover it there. So Star Trek's going strong again, and we're happy to have that. And of course, that's about it. I mean, other than us doing this show and James and Kim doing Rebinged DS9, that Star Trek is it. So we talked about that. But anyway, you can get that. If you want to check it out, just go to talkthroughmedia.com. You can find it there. Our Facebook group is Star Trek. Facebook.com/groups/Star Trek TTM podcasts with an S. And the Patreon is Star Trek TTM. Well, of course, patreon.com/Star Trek TTM. That's what I meant to say, but I didn't.
Yep.
Anyway, still a little rusty.
Yeah.
You're getting there. It's like riding a bike.
Yeah.
So, next week, it's The Walking Dead Dead City, Season 1, Episode 3, People Are a Resource. Written by Keith Stashkowitz, directed by Kevin Dowling, and the description, according to AMC Plus, is dark instincts reveal themselves as Maggie and Negan form a strategy. Armstrong is tested. Ginny embarks on a daring journey. So until next time, I'm LT.
And I'm Kyle.
And I'm Brian.
And this is the Walking Dead Talk Through. Good night, everybody.
Good night.
Good night.